Alright, I have all kinds of fingers and toes and eroded down to the apical tuft, which I don't know if you can see it way up there at the top. No, you can't. You see that? That's an apical tuft. Sits right at the tip of the distal phalanges fingertip. And that's it right there. And here, here's one that's eroded. I don't know if you can see that black pattern there, but that's the pattern of the distal phalanges. And this tip would sit right out here. This is the artery, that's the vein. Arteries blow out, see the blood holes there? The veins do not blow out, they plug up because they have a valve in them that does not allow the blood to go backwards. That is where these arteries lock in. Can you see that down there now? That's where I'm sorry, not the arteries, oh boy, I tell you, the tendons lock in on the side of the fingers. That's what allows you to move your fingers and do all these different things. There's tendons that overlap and flap over, and they lock in. All of this stuff is fully seen in my mud fossils. Now, what I want you to look at here is this is the fingertip. All right, this is a fingertip of one of these, and I'm going to show you the CAT scan. It'll make a lot more sense. Now, there is tendons that run down on the side. One's here and one is here, and you'll see them in the CAT scan. And they lock in to these indentations. And that's what gives you such strength in your fingertips that you can pull and grab. Tendons are tough as hell. Now let's go look at the actual CAT scans. Alright, this is the back of the fingertip. Now you really can't see it all that well until you look at the CAT scan, but you can see there's one of those tendons and there's the one on the other side. Now, usually there's be a dark and a lighter side, and that indicates the dark side is usually where they have the vein blood, the lighter side is the arterial blood, and this is that fingertip, and here it is in actuality. Now, you can't see the holes where the blood is easily, but in I think it's on this. Hold on, I'm pointing around it. Oh, there it is. Okay, now let's see. Now you can see where all the blood is running through. I mean, it's pretty obvious once you understand what you're looking at. Let me see if there's anything more of any consequence out here. That just shows where that distal phalanges pattern is. And where, whoops, enough of that. Fool. Alright, this is that other finger, or toe actually, I believe. Let me back this up so you can see it better. Alright, now, this is the bottom of it, and it tips up like that. That's the tip, and that's the top of it. Now, here you can see where these two big tendon spots are. I don't know if you can see them or not. Let me put a little moisture on it. Sometimes the moisture brings out the look, but you can actually see there's one of the tendons, and here's the other one right there. And that's what ran up to that toe. And here's the bottom of the toe, right here. And you see all those holes would have had, you know, blood vessels in there, little blood spots. See? And that's where the tendons are. And this is that's one of the fingers from this. That's, I believe, the toe, a toe. This is one of the fingers. I don't know what you can see because that's so bright out here I can't see a lot. But that is the fabric, and that's the bone ball on the other side. That's the tendon that comes down. And this goes right over towards I don't know, either the finger or the palm. It's hard to tell. And this is a bone, probably from this same guy. That's broken apart, but that's the round part of where the bone would have been. And this is the inside where the bone marrow was. Now all of these little holes, that was where there was biology at one time. And in the microscope, it's extremely obvious. All of this stuff is very, very, very obvious once you get to understanding it. But it's getting to understanding it where we have to stop and start thinking, that's all. And that came from, let me see if I can, down over there, the toe. And the other one was, well, hard to see, I don't want to point it out, but anyway, it was about 70 feet away, something like that. And the other part was where we dug up foundation for an office, and the other part was a little bit submerged, but just barely under the surface, because the foundation was not a full foundation. It was just like 3 or 4 feet deep. So and that palm came out of there, that 3-foot wide palm, and some of the fingertips and so forth. All right, even before I start here, I want you to understand, I am about trying to learn what our true history was. Now, because of the separation of you have to study this and you can't study that and I'm of this and you're of that, well, I could just do the whole thing, so I started Mudfossil University. I had to, because I had to trespass in every border. You have to understand geology was wrong, physics is wrong, the atomic nucleus is wrong, our history is totally wrong, religion and the deities and all that stuff is wrong. There was a great flood. This evidence is everywhere. That's a goose's head or some kind of a waterfowl appears and drowned, and that's why they all pretty much have a flat side to them. It drowned laying like this, and that's how they stabilized in an aqueous solution. This is a lung, certified human lung, drowned, flat as a pancake. The fascia, pleura, separation of layers, which is inside the body, the same thing, keeps this layer separated from that layer. Did the same thing in the mud fossils, because we petrified, or these things petrified, in this wet aqueous solution. That's why they're flat as a pancake on one side. Now, I have tons and tons and tons, literally, of these. Now, some of them didn't just get flat because they were structurally supported as bones and so forth, but organs and things that had a lot of flesh on them will lay flat and become flat on one side, and you'll see it like, well, this is a bone that came out from the flesh eroded away from, which is the weaker part, from the more structural part, but the structural part was still inside the wet aqueous transition metal laden waters, salts, everything, and they invade and stabilize the molecules that are in there, so when the water goes away they turn into what we call rocks. But these are nothing more than accumulations of stabilized minerals. The minerals were unstable when they were in an organic form in your body, transitioning molecules and blood and oxygen and all that stuff, but once you die they stop doing that and they stabilize, and that's it right there. And this is a lung. You say, oh no, Roger, that can't be a lung. Yes, it is, and guess why I could say that? Boom. Because there's your blood. The red and the black is blood. It leaked, laying like this, and the red and the black blood ran out of it. That's what that is. That's why they call some things rose quartz and red granite and all this stuff. Well, that could be red granite if it's got a lot of these little tiny porous holes in it. I know how to tell these things very well. And sometimes granite is actually ground up creatures. I have ground up creatures for my countertop. I'll show you. You see that? That's my countertop. It's ground up granite. Well, granite originally started like this, but they ground it up because there's tons of metals in here. The inside of your blood is loaded with transition metals, because those are the things that carry things around in a process of ligation. They attach these metals to things, and they carry other things around and they drop them off. They come back and reattach. Now, they soaked this, some alchemist at some point in the past, and missed this one little piece of metal. The rest is completely devoid of metals. Now, I have some things around here that are saturated with metals. Here's one right here. See that? Sometimes, and see that? That's blood. That's blood. And this happened to be in a place where everything, this was a toe. That's the, I believe the artery side, maybe the vein side, I'm not sure. But it came like this, and there's still a little bit of bone in there. If you could see that real close, there's still some bone left. But everything else, the organic material, transitions. And you end up with the most dense material in certain depths. And, you know, there's a lot to the transition process. But sometimes you'll end up with literally toes of gold, just a lump of gold. If it's at that specific area and it blocks up with a specific blockage, and they start to accumulate and crystallize and grow and grow and grow as the things pass by them. They want to accept all that stuff. The blood flows out, you end up with metals. And sometimes the metals are just gold, or just silver, or just copper, or just whatever it is. It's a very interesting process that's been missed. Now, my point being, though, is that a lot of people's counters are ground up and then they extracted the metal. I'll show you a better example. All right, there's a countertop. Now, that's not mine, but it's a ground up countertop. Now, you see you have the same looking fabric, but this is a fabric that coats it. Underneath, you do have a lot of this looking stuff that's red and black and white. I mean, it's just what it is. That is the nature of the blood. That's the nature of the blood. Now, that is not just a natural formation. That, I believe, somebody ground up a bunch of these lungs and then extracted what was left in them, which was the metals. And they did that by alchemy. And then they left these in piles, which solidified. We grind them up and make countertops out of them. Now, this is a natural slab of stone from a creature's body. That was a creature's body. Every single thing there was a creature's body. Get over it. Now, you can see the separations of the different organ systems and so forth. But the other one is totally homogeneous. They would have ground this up and extracted the metals out of it and then made the countertops that we see as the homogeneous ones. See, that's natural. I think that was a fingertip. I really honestly do, you see? You see the spots? I'm telling you, I could see things in, well, anyway, that's a slab. Let's take a look some more. All right, they call that red granite, and that's okay. That's inside of a lung. I have them here. All right, you see that right there? Those are lobes of a lung, and that's what leaked out of these red little spots. All right, that's the one I just showed you with the red leaked out little blob, and this is the blood that leaked out of there. Now, and that's what they look like, and that's what it looks like. I mean, the same little round little lobes of the lung, alveoli, and this is when it's completely coated with pleura, which is a coating that coats the whole thing. And you see this red spot down here? They have a little flap that is this flap. And that's where the blood was taken to get the DNA tested for that. It's human, solid as a rock, so to speak. Now, there was something I wanted to show you here. Oh yeah, the blood, let's see. All right, this is where, I believe that's from this area down here when it was wetter. I'm pretty sure that's where that came from. And that's tissue. And that's the stuff they ground up. And there's metals in there. There's a ton of metals in your blood, a ton of metals. Oh, this I made. This I made in 6 months or less with chicken tissue in different. I put a little bit of voltage through it, which is exactly what's going to happen in the earth too. You're subject to voltage in the earth as well. And at any rate, it's not hard to make mud fossils. Very simple. What do I have here? I was just showing where see, that's where the really red bloody stuff came out of. These things are not hard to find. They're just not hard to find. You just have to look around and look for them. Now, scabs, let's see what we got here. All right, 2 holes, 1 blood. All right, this here, you see, inside of these bone foramens, you see you have the hole here and hole here. This one here, blood, the red blood. See the red blood? That's the vein side. But these are the bone foramens. It's an indentation. Now, I show some with a scab. All right, there's a scab when I first took it out. The scab was covering the fibrin, which is of the clotting fibers. And that's before I did anything to it. And then after that, I took it out of there. And what this is an artery and a vein that run through these bone indentations. They call them foramen or foramen, however you want to pronounce it. I got so much stuff. It takes me forever to show you this stuff, but anyway, it is time, obviously, to start looking at things in a much better thought process. Like this right here. You see this rock? It's around here somewhere. Here it is right here. It's this rock right here. Now it's been all beaten up and dried up now. But when I first take it out of the ground, it looked like a piece of meat. Now you see that little flap there? Watch this. It's a fascia latch. You see, it has all this is the fascia fibers. And those are the fibers that are like these fibers right here on the lung. And that latch is just like this latch, whoops, which would be here. This is a whole new science, a whole brand new thing. I mean, to be avoiding this is not right. And this points to a lot of things that were totally different about our history. That's the key. That's really upsets academics because it points to literally a God and creation and, a superior being somewhere that is in control. And I mean, I'm going with that 100% now. That there is a God, and then there is lords that rule over, and then there's got to be one top God somewhere. Even the Sumerians had no idea who he was. And they didn't even know that the earth was made of creatures. I at least understand that now. This is a brand new understanding. Nobody in history since the Sumerians writing on the tablets of destiny, really, those clay tablets, they knew about metals and so forth, but they were searching for them and didn't understand that the earth was literally made of creatures. Now, I could see the dragon and everything. Now, was the dragon on the top of the earth when they were here, or did that happen after they were here in the Great Flood? I think that needs to be looked at, because everything's wide open now. But I can tell you one thing right now, if you just exclude everything that I am talking about here and what I am presenting here, and the DNA and the CAT scans and the giants and the anatomy and everything, the chemistry, a whole 9 yards that I'm presenting, to accept, oh, we've tested this stuff, we're academics, we've done this and that, exactly what they say. Oh, you're just going to throw 200 years of this out or 300 years of that out. Well, we're going to look at it. If it needs to be thrown out, well, throw the damn thing out. What? You just say, oh, we've got 200 years of thinking, so forget about it? And then I find something that you guys never considered? Well, let's consider it, and then we'll talk. But don't just tell me to get lost. I tell you to get lost. Get lost.